I may live 1,459 miles from Lincoln Financial Field, but what I lack in proximity, I make up for in film study. And each and every week, I'll be bringing you in-depth film breakdowns from the Sooner State. Welcome to On the Shane page. I am your host, Shane Haff, and you can follow me on Twitter at ShaneHaffNFL. Some of you may have surmised by my face being the only one on your screen or the altered introduction that I'm flying solo on this episode. Listeners of the show will know you've heard Johnny and I talk about the fact that he was actually in the States, closer to Philadelphia than I am, for a holiday, going to a bunch of football games. He was actually at the Bengals game, but because of travel schedules, we're just not able to record together this week. And so I did not want to skip the film. I wanted you guys to have a film review to work on. And we've done one of these before, a week that Johnny was sick, that I had to roll solo. And so we'll roll with it. We'll make the best of it. And Johnny will be back next week with all of his film threads, with his BGN articles, and on this podcast. And so hopefully this will tide you over till then. I also do want to shout out our Patreon members. Have been having some fun conversations in the Discord about video games and Anthony Richardson, all kinds of different stuff. So you guys can join our Patreon at patreon.com/ontheshane-page. We got a group of about 30 guys in there right now, and you get access to a lot of perks, an ad-free version of this podcast feed. You can chat with us in the Discord, which is just a lot easier than trying to chat with us on Twitter at times. You get my All-22 film review for Jalen Hurts. There's lots of stuff that comes along. And so you guys can go check that out. I also want to read a review we got on Apple Podcasts for the podcast feed that says, high quality content. Pinpull Network has quickly become my go-to film/analysis outlet. Johnny and Shane really provide quality insight on their film pod that I look forward to each week. Keep it up, guys. That came from Genus10. So, if you guys are listening on podcast platforms, or even if you're not, if you would go give us a 5-star rating and review, we would really appreciate it. Might even read one of them out on the show for you. So without any further ado, let's dive in. You guys know the normal format for the show. Generally, Johnny and I will each give you 3 points on offense and on the defensive side of the ball. This week, Johnny's gone. The format becomes a little more loose. I'm going to give you 3 offensive points, and I'm going to actually give you 5 on defense. So we're going to start with the offense. And I feel like you can't start on the offense without talking about Jalen Hurts. Like, Jalen Hurts played such a fantastic game in this one. And I want to get into a few of the plays, but let's talk about the stats first. He goes 16 of 20 passing in this game, and that included 13 straight completions to close the game. Now, there was a near disaster throw to Kenny Gainwell in the flat that could have been very easily pick-sixed. After that point, he didn't throw another pass that hit the turf. He had a plus 20.2% completion percentage over expectation, which was the highest mark of his career. He led the offense to points on 7 of 8 possessions. He had positive 0.68 EPA per play, which is the highest mark of his career. It's also 98th percentile of all quarterback performances. Since the bye week, so 3-game sample size now, and you've got, a Browns defense that was really good, and you've got a Giants pass rush that was good, and the Bengals defense hasn't been great this year, but since the bye week, he is 3rd among quarterbacks in EPA plus completion percentage over expectation. He is 2nd in success rate, and he only has 1 turnover-worthy play, that throw to Kenny Gainwell, which is a 1.4% turnover-worthy play rate. And so we've seen Hurts have answers to the blitz out of the bye. We've seen him take care of the football. We've seen them start to target the middle of the field. We've seen him be more decisive as a runner. Hurts is checking all of the boxes right now. And so I want to go through a few of the plays here. On this first one, we're going to get a play action pass. Let me see. I'm going to look over at this other screen here. So I might not be looking at the camera, but this way I can see it. So I think this is just a really good processing from Hurts. And so I'll let A.J. Brown motion across the formation here, and we'll pause it at the snap of the ball. This is going to be a play action pass, and you're sort of going to get a high-low from the tight end and the receiver coming from the left, and neither of those guys is going to end up being open. And then Devontae Smith is kind of running a corner route, but you're looking at A.J. Brown, who is going to run this post route over the middle, and just nobody's really open. He starts off looking to the left side of the field to the high-low, and then he comes back to A.J. Brown. And I just like the speed with which he eliminates Brown once he comes across and he scrambles. It's a decisive run. He slides and avoids the big hit, almost gets the first down. From the back view, you can really appreciate how quickly he moves through these reads. And so if you watch from the back, he's looking left, right, and now we're scrambling. And so that's decisiveness we haven't seen from Hurts at times. We've seen him tentative. We've seen him wanting to, sit on a read too long. And so for him to go from the left side of the field to a read on the right side of the field to scrambling left, I think that's really good growth. That's really good process from Hurts. The second play that I want to show you is on a 3rd and 16 after a big penalty. I think it was the penalty on Tyler Steen for hitting the pile at the whistle. The Eagles are in a bad spot. This drive's looking like it's going to stall out and you're going to have to kick a field goal. But on 3rd and 16, he's going to find A.J. Brown sitting down at the first down marker. But that's not his first read. His first read is to the right side of the field. I think he's looking for Devontae Smith to try to split these safeties. And you're getting 2 vertical routes on that side of the field. And as you watch this play out, now I think the Bengals defense is terrible here. If I'm the Bengals, I think this cornerback's technique is awful. Like, I don't know why you're releasing A.J. Brown like they do. That's clearly the threat, 16 yards from the first down marker, but they do. But Hurts is looking right. He wants Devontae Smith splitting this safety, and it's just not there. And so he comes back. But this other linebacker has been manipulated towards the middle of the field by Hurts. And I don't think this is Hurts just looking him off. I legitimately think Devontae Smith is where they want to go with this ball. And so you can watch from I guess it's the front view here. He's reading Devontae Smith all the way, and it's not there. And he's able to find A.J. Brown sitting at the marker. That's a huge first down at a big moment in this game. Now on this next one, this play is a play that Screenshot Twitter had some fun with. And by fun, I mean it's a miserable conversation out there sometimes. But you get A.J. Brown is going to be wide open because the corner falls down on the streak. And A.J. Brown throws up the hand in the mailbox. I'm open, right? And Hurts doesn't see him. A.J. Brown wasn't in the progression here. This is going to be a play action pass. And you get a vertical route. And then you get like a drag route and an over route coming across the middle of the field. And so what the Eagles are trying to do here, and we'll just roll the play and you can see A.J. Brown, there you go, wide open, right? Hurts isn't looking at him. We're looking at Devontae Smith kind of running this post route. And because he is carried by the slot cornerback, this linebacker now has to take Jack Stoll on the drag route. And because he has to take Jack Stoll on the drag route, Jalen Hurts is going to read this out. You get Grant Calcaterra on the over route. Hurts buys time in the pocket and hits him for a big gain. This is a really good processing play. Again, this is Hurts looking at Devontae Smith. He's bouncing to a secondary read. He's throwing over the middle of the field while buying time in the pocket. And that's a really good rep by Fred Johnson, by the way, one-on-one against Trey Hendrickson. And you move the chains with a big explosive play. And the Eagles utilized a lot of play action passing in this game. You notice that this next play will be the 3rd play out of 4 that I show that's play action. The Eagles are using play action to generate explosive plays because their rushing attack is working so good. And on this one, it's going to be a play fake coming to the left. Just watch the safety at the bottom of the screen. He takes a step down, and Devontae Smith is going to be running behind him. And so as soon as he takes this step down, this is where you're going to go. The Eagles are going to roll Hurts out to the right away from Trey Hendrickson. He's the best pass rusher by far that the Bengals have. You roll right. You throw that ball up. It's a fantastic job by Devontae Smith. He initiates contact at like the 12, 13-yard line with the safety and gets him on his back hips. And you can see from the back view how late his hands flash. Like, it's A.J. Brown-esque. He's not as physical, but his technique's every bit as good. And so watch from the back view here as Hurts buys time, and then see how Devontae Smith handles this at the catch point. But rolling right, you're creating more space from Trey Hendrickson. Watch how late the hands come up. Right there. Like the ball's almost in his hands before they move. And so Jalen Hurts played an incredible game in this one. Like I said at the beginning, it's the highest completion percentage over expectation of his career. It is the highest EPA performance of his career. And aside from one play, you can say that Jalen Hurts has played mistake-free football for 3 straight weeks. Hopefully he can keep that rolling against the Jaguars next week. So let's move on to my second point, and you guys feel free to hop in the comments if you're here watching live. Let me know what you're thinking, what you're seeing. But I want to talk about the Eagles getting under center. The Eagles have begun to ramp up the amount that they're using under center. If you exclude the tush push, which it's under center, but that doesn't really count. In the first 4 weeks of the season, they ran 11 plays from under center. And so the week after the bye, they ran 3. And then in the last 2 weeks, they've run 26 plays under center, again, excluding QB sneaks. There were 16 this week. There were 10 last week. Now, they only have a 14% pass rate from under center, which is the lowest in the NFL. But they are 4th in EPA per play, which is impressive because if you follow EPA statistics, like passing is so much more efficient than running the ball is. And so despite the fact that Eagles are not throwing from under center, they're 4th in EPA per play. And it's because they are 1st in EPA per rush. And the difference between them and number 2, which is the Ravens, is the same as the distance between number 2 and number 7, which is the Commanders. And so they're lapping the league when it comes to running the ball from under center. And so I want to show a few of the plays that they used in this game. And when we get into our concept of the week, I'm going to show you something I think they can do to build off of this. But this first play, one of the things that's so good about running under center is in shotgun, and we've talked about it. In shotgun, if the running back is beside the quarterback, there's like a 90% chance it's going opposite the running back, right? He's going to take it coming across the quarterback, and he's going to go that direction. Under center, you just don't know. And so if you're the defense looking at this formation, you've got 2 tight ends to the right side. You would probably think this run is going to go right. And when Saquon Barkley steps to the right and Jalen Hurts turns to the right, you're almost positive this is going right, but the line blocks left, and it turns out it's a misdirection play. And so Saquon's going to start to the right. He gets out to the left. From the back view, I want you guys to watch Landon Dickerson and Cam Jurgens because they do a great job on this. But watch how at the snap of the ball, Saquon makes you think this is going right. Hurts makes you think it's going right, but everything is moving to the left for the line. And watch this double team. Cam Jurgens pushing guys downfield. Now, his guy gets disengaged and it ultimately makes the tackle. But really nice play there from under center. Here we got another play under center. And again, we've got the 2 tight ends attached to the right side of the formation. And this is just going to be a dive. Nothing fancy. We're getting upfield, but the Eagles are going to use this 2 tight end look to get Lane Johnson free release to the second level. And so at the snap of the ball, Lane's already moving. You don't want to be a linebacker with Lane Johnson moving at you. And just look at this hole already. And part of that's because the Bengals are sitting here with 2 high safeties against 12 personnel under center. And you would say, why wouldn't a team stack the box when you go under center like this if you're such a run-heavy team? It's because if they do, you're leaving A.J. Brown one-on-one on the perimeter, and pretty much half their play-action passes from under center have been curl routes or go balls to A.J. Brown. And so teams are afraid to get burned by that, and eventually they're going to come up to stop it, and then you get the looks that you wanted all along. But look at the displacement created. Free release to the linebacker for Lane Johnson. That's just as easy as it gets. And so we'll look at this one from the back view again. And like I said, watch Lane. Anytime you can get an offensive lineman with his athleticism uncovered to the second level, it's great for your offense. And so he's able to make that block. Saquon follows him right through the hole. And then we get into our I formation stuff because apparently the Eagles are an I formation team now. They like to have a drive, where it's like they have a theme. You haven't seen Ben Van Sumeren in I formation for 3/4 of the game, and then all of a sudden he's out there for back-to-back plays in I formation. And the first one, he's going to kind of kick out on the defensive tackle there. And one of the cool things about this play you can see from the back view is Tyler Steen reach blocks this defensive tackle. A reach block is where you cross the face of a defender and then you block him, you seal him out. You see how he's able to do that. I guess he doesn't really seal him out. He kind of pushes him, but he's able to create that hole there. I think I'm thinking of a different play in this montage where he's going to reach block a guy. But then the Eagles come back on the very next play and they run I formation again. And again, this time Ben Van Sumeren's going to come to the outside. They leave the defensive end unblocked and he cuts him. And it's not a big gain, but the ability to just stay ahead of the sticks and to pound an opposing defensive line, it really takes the sails out of a pass rush. So you see Ben Van Sumeren cutting the defensive end on the backside. The last under center play that I want to show, and this is one I think they're going to build something off of. This is going to be a jet motion. And so you're going to get Jahan Dotson, I believe it is, in jet motion. And I just want you to watch the two tight ends at the bottom of the screen. And I want you to watch the defensive end, the linebacker, and the cornerback. Because they all, the tight ends pull out like this is jet motion, like we're going to hand it off. And these guys all go with them. Look at this. You just blocked three guys, a defensive end, a linebacker, and a corner, with a tight end that can't block in Grant Calcaterra, another tight end that can block in Jack Stoll, and a wide receiver in Jahan Dotson. Now, I promise you that the Eagles are going to run a jet motion off of this down the road. They absolutely are. Kellen Moore has done this a lot, and it's something we haven't seen in Philadelphia, but it's all over his film in Dallas. I think you're just slowly seeing these concepts added into the playbook. And because these guys follow him out, just look at the hole that Saquon has to run through. And he picks up another huge first down. And so, again, the Eagles aren't showing, they're not doing these jet sweeps. They're not throwing a lot out of under center, but I do believe that's coming. And so from the back view, again, just watch the defensive end. Like this is just easy. And this is the reach block I'm talking about with Tyler Steen. He's going to get all the way over to this nose tackle. And it's not like a great block. No, maybe that wasn't the play. I don't know. There's a play where he reach blocked, and maybe I just didn't include that one in the montage here. Oh, maybe it's the next play. Oh, no, I just skipped back too far. Sorry, I'm all over the place. I need Johnny here to anchor me, guys. This is the play that I was talking about. Tyler Steen is going to reach block this defensive tackle. And it's not a great block, right? He overruns it, except Saquon's trying to go this way anyways. So the defensive tackle having to swim around behind doesn't have a chance to make the play. And look at this lane. I also love Lane Johnson. He's playing basketball here. We're blocking out the defenders. And then watch Lane just celebrate, running downfield, gesturing first down. This team is having fun. Everything is going well right now. So I think there's some concepts that the Eagles can build out off of their under center, both in, getting receivers the ball on the boundary and some passing concepts. And I'm going to talk about one of those in my concept of the week. We've got a comment coming in from Twitter saying, hi from Eagles Spain. Shout out to all of our international listeners or watchers out there. We really appreciate you guys tuning in to the show. Absolutely. So let's get into our concept of the week. My concept of the week is play action leak. And it's not that the Eagles, they run a very play action leak adjacent concept here. And so this is good. This should look familiar to you. Jahan Dotson is going to motion in and he's going to ring around the Rosie here and he's going to go out to the flat. Now the rest of this play, we're going to get double post routes from A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. We get Kenny Gainwell releasing through the line on a wheel route. And you get Grant Calcaterra. He's going to block, and then he's going to sort of get out on a drag route. Now, a leak route is more like getting upfield after you drag, and he doesn't really do that. But watch how wide open Grant Calcaterra gets on this play. And then I'm going to show you where this came from, where you've seen it before, and what it could look like down the road. And so you could try to throw this wheel route. Like, I don't think this wheel route is something they would like to get, but it's just not there. you got the defender on top of it. And so instead, you just come to Grant Calcaterra running his little drag route. Boom, the ball's on him. It's a first down. Now, this play I said might look familiar. Here's where it looks familiar from. Week 1 in Brazil. This time, Jahan Dotson starts out wide, but he's still going to motion behind. You get the post routes, right? This is the Saquon touchdown. You're going to get Saquon releasing on the wheel route. It's Dallas Goedert this time on the drag route. And Jalen Hurts hits Saquon Barkley for the touchdown on the wheel route. So there's a lot of ways you can attack using this play. But you run it out here. See, it's the same thing. You get the same thing. The left guard pulling. I forgot to mention that, but the left guard pulls on both of these to sell this run fake. So here it is on the first one. You got the left guard pulling. All right, we're selling this run fake. Here it is in the Packers game. The left guard's going to pull. We're selling this run fake. But we're really just creating room to boot out. And so on both of these plays, we're booting out and then we're throwing it back across the field. Now, that's just a small step away from play action leak. Here's an example of the Packers running play action leak. I think this was last week. Now they're going to get under center. And from under center, they're going to get like a split zone blocking look. And you get a fake blocking look here. But what you're actually trying to do, you're going to bootleg out to the right and watch the tight end here. He's going to fake block and leak out up the sideline. And this is Malik Willis, hits him wide open. So much of this is similar to what the Eagles are doing out of shotgun, right? So much of it's similar. We get the run action, we get the bootleg out right. We're throwing back to the tight end running left. He's not on a leak route. It's more of a drag, but we're so close to being able to execute that concept. I do think that's something that's coming. Obviously, the run fake works a little better from under center than it does in shotgun, and that's why you see a little different degree of separation there. But Kellen Moore is starting to build out this aspect of the playbook, I think. You've seen the under center rate skyrocket over the last few weeks, and you haven't seen a lot of passing concepts off of it, but we're so close to play action leak out of shotgun. We're so close to the jet sweep. We ran the blocking for the jet sweep. We just didn't hand it off. Moore is fleshing these things out. And so I'm excited to see down the stretch what the Eagles are going to look like under center, because it's not probably sustainable to continue to be 85% run out of under center. But I do think there's some concepts being built off of that. So let's go to a few comments here before we get to the defensive side of the ball. Ryan says that I love the building blocks are starting to be put in place for really making this team multifaceted on offense. GGN on YouTube says that Kellen is starting to cook. I think so. I think you're starting to see this fleshed out for sure. And we've got Ben asking if the Eagles played the Lions next week, how does that go? It's a good question. And I think there's a good chance we find out how that game goes in January or February football if the Eagles continue to play this well. So don't have a good answer on that one. I'm not prepared to preview an Eagles-Lions matchup at this point, but they're two of the more interesting offenses in the NFL. Obviously, the Lions are further down the road of the play action game and things that the Eagles are headed down. I'm glad we don't play them next week. But I do hope we get a shot to meet up with them in the playoffs. So, all right, you guys keep the comments coming, and we're going to get onto the defensive side of the ball where I have 5 points that I want to run through. And some of them are really short, but they're just things I wanted to make sure and touch on. And so the first thing I want to touch on is the Eagles linebacker play. It's crazy. It feels so surreal to watch football, watch an Eagles game and see linebackers making plays. And, you know, Nakobe Dean's been up and down. There's been some deficiencies in coverage, but he was really good in this game. Zach Bond was really good in this game. They were actually PFF's top 2 graded linebackers across the NFL this week. Take that for what it's worth. But I want to show you a few of the plays that really stood out to me from Zach Bond and from Nakobe Dean. This first one is going to be a screen pass to the running back at the bottom of the screen that is just going to get blown up by Nakobe Dean. And Zach Bond's not far behind if Nakobe Dean doesn't get there. But They sniffed that out, both of them. That happened to be on Dean's side, but you can see from the back view, like Zach Bond is on his horse to get there too. They're rallying to tackle. Nakobe Dean comes down and hits with force to put the Bengals behind the sticks. On this next one, the center is going to release up to try to block Zach Bond in the running game. And I think Zach Bond, just watch him. He does a really good job of slipping this block and getting in to make a tackle. So right here, whoop, slips by him. He's able to get out and make the tackle on the running back. And so the Eagles' run defense is playing really well. Granted, the Bengals are a bad rushing team, but the linebacker play is a big part of this and why the Eagles are able to continue to stay in these 4 down fronts. Hopefully this continues. Let's look at this next one. You're going to get Zach Bond triggering through the A gap, and he's going to collision this tight end that's trying to make the tackle. You can also watch, this isn't a Jalen Carter point, but Jalen Carter just eats up this double team. And then Zach Bond's going to make the tackle. So triggers through the hole. This is where we're trying to run, but Zach Bond meets force with force, so he doesn't get washed out of the hole. It forces the running back to bounce. You've got Jalen Carter there, and then, I don't know, everybody's in on the tackle. So team run defense, really impressive. This is another play that's really impressive just from a team standpoint. Like Jordan Davis is going to take a double team right here, and you're going to get a puller coming across the formation, and Brandon Graham's going to attack him to collapse this hole. So let's watch those things play out, and then we'll get to the linebackers. So we get the double team we're taking on. Brandon Graham's going to come meet this puller. Boom. This is the hole we're trying to run through. Nakobe Dean comes down into the hole, right, and collisions the other puller, and there's just nothing there. So again, Zach Bond's getting over here. This is just really good team run defense against multiple pullers, and there's just nothing there for the Bengals rushing attack. And so that's another really good example of run defense. Here's one that's a really good example of pass coverage from Nakobe Dean. This is going to be a play action pass, and we've seen play action passes totally take Nakobe Dean out of plays before. He overcommits. He's charging at the line, but the run defense is playing good right now, and Nakobe Dean plays disciplined on this play. There's going to be a crossing route from the bottom of the screen that Cooper DeJean tries to follow, and he's behind it. But Nakobe Dean sinks into this throwing window. Look, it's one step, and he's back. And now we're sinking under this crosser, and it's not there, and Joe Burrow has to roll out. Now he has to roll out because it's a pretty quick pass rush win. I think it's from Jordan Davis, actually. But you can see how open this crosser would be if Nakobe Dean doesn't sync with this. He's running into all kinds of space. Burrow could reset his feet and get this out. And so that's good growth. If you can see Nakobe Dean start to be better each week as a coverage backer, and the sky could really be the limit for him. Now on this next play, this is the 3rd and 1, and it's before the 4th and 1 Cooper DeJean stop. But just watch Nakobe Dean trigger downhill on this 3rd and 1. You get the motion coming across the formation, and he's just going to trigger downhill. Oh, sorry. This is the back view from him dropping under the crosser. I wanted you guys to be able to see that one too. But see how he's got eyes on Burrow. He feels this crosser, and he's getting out on him. So again, just a really good job there. Now we're on the 3rd and 1. And we've got Nakobe Dean right here. He's going to trigger downhill hard. Boom. Shot. He comes down like he's shot out of a cannon, and he impacts the hole. Brandon Graham ultimately gets that stop, and you can see it from the back view here. Brandon Graham gets a lot of the credit for this play, as he should, but he doesn't get it without Nakobe Dean flying downhill. So you can see it here again. That's just a really good play. And so I mentioned that both of the linebackers, they were ranked 1 and 2 by PFF this week in linebacker grades, which, take that for what it's worth. There's some problems with the grading, but on the season as a whole, amongst linebackers in the NFL, both Nakobe Dean and Zach Bond are top 15 in pressures. They're both top 10 in sacks. They're both top 15 for stops, which is a tackle that results in negative EPA for the offense. And so both of these guys are playing at a really high level. Zach Bond's been more consistently good. Nakobe Dean has had more of ups and downs with flash plays and valleys, but these guys are playing really well. And it's been a lot of fun watching them. Something I never would have thought. And even back in the offseason, or even back in like week 1, Zach Bond had a really good game, but there was a lot of questions about Nakobe Dean early. And to see him answer those questions and to see, the Eagles linebackers thrive. And DeJean says on YouTube that a Zach Bond midseason extension is coming soon. I hope so. They better get it. They better get that midseason extension in because he's going to end up making the All-Pro team if the Eagles aren't careful. And then he's going to want mega money. And we all know how the Eagles feel about that. But shout out to Zach Bond. Shout out to Nakobe Dean. Hopefully they're both with the Eagles long term. So let's get to another guy that I want to talk about. My second point is about Nolan Smith. Nolan Smith is a guy that I really liked in the draft. Now, I had I said I really liked the pick of him. I said I would have taken Brian Branch. I had Brian Branch just a little higher on my draft board near the end of the first round, but I really like Nolan Smith's athleticism, and I just wanted to see him build out pass rush moves. And I was really concerned in the preseason and early this season because there was no moves being showed. It was just the same bull rush. And he's a good edge setter. He's got a high motor. But a guy that small just bull rushing all the time, it's not going to work very well. And so we saw him get a sack last week. He was bull rushing. It was against a backup offensive tackle. But this week, I thought he had a couple of really nice pass rush moves. This first one is going to come against Amarius Mims, who is a rookie. He was a highly touted draft pick, really athletic guy, and he's here at right tackle. You're going to have Nolan Smith, and Nolan Smith is going to throw his hands at Amarius Mims, and then he slips the block and he gets around the edge. And this is about as much of an insta-win as you can get. And he gets the sack on Joe Burrow. Now, Burrow kind of starts to spin out of it, and he ends up having to split this sack with Milton Williams, which is unfortunate for him because this is a really good rep. But again, watch him come in, and he runs right at him like he's going to rush with power, and he puts his hands up, and then he just slips this block. And he doesn't try to push him into the pocket. He slips it, and he's able to get to Joe Burrow. And then this next one, this is the interception that Isaiah Rodgers deflects to Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. And this doesn't even get registered as a pressure for the game. But this is an instant win, and Burrow's just got the ball out so fast. But watch him, just slips under Amarius Mims again. Unfortunately, the ball's already out. It results in an interception. Does Joe Burrow throw this ball this quickly if he doesn't have a pass rusher coming in his face? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But pressure leads to turnovers. And this time it's Nolan Smith using a ghost technique. And he acts like he's going to power or bull rush Amarius Mims off the left side of your screen here. And then he doesn't even make contact. He just slips under it. It's called a ghost move. Just whoop, and now you're gone. So Nolan Smith, I think, has played really well over the last 3 weeks of the season. It's by far the best stretch of his NFL career. He had a 35.7% pass rush win rate this week, which was top among all NFL edge rushers. Since the bye week, he's got a 25% pass rush win rate that ranks third in the league. He's got 3 sacks or 2.5 sacks. He's got 6 pressures. That's 6 pressures compared to 9 all of last season. He's got more sacks than he had all of last season in the last 3 games. And so Nolan Smith is really starting to come on. Hopefully he's able to continue to pass rush well, because I don't have any doubts about him as an edge defender in the run game. If he can continue to develop as a pass rusher, maybe he'll become the latest guy that people called bust on just a little bit too soon. So speaking of Nolan Smith, though, how the heck does Nolan Smith end up in man coverage on Jamar Chase? Let's go to the first touchdown that the Bengals have. How does this happen, right? We scream about this on Twitter after the game. Well, of course, Jamar Chase is going to beat Nolan Smith. This is just a miscommunication by the Eagles defense. The Bengals are in, I believe it's 12 personnel here, but they go empty. So because they're in 12 personnel, the Eagles have 5 defensive linemen in. So they're playing kind of their 5-2 front. Then all of a sudden you're in empty. Now all of a sudden you're not. There's all kinds of motion going on. Jamar Chase is out of the backfield here, and he's on the left side of the field. So I'm pretty sure what's happening here is the Eagles are going to rush 4. These 4 defenders rush. And then they're going to play out what is essentially like cover zero man, except they have a bonus dropper off of each side. So you've got Nolan Smith on the right. You've got Zach Bond on the left. They're sort of rat defenders. They're going to drop into holes. You're sinking into slant windows. You're just sort of looking for a place that you can get in a throwing window while the rest of the defense plays cover one or cover zero man. And so you've got man coverage here. You've got man coverage, Reed Blankenship on Jamar Chase. You've got man coverage, Nakobe Dean on whoever this is in the backfield that's going to motion out. And you have Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is on the tight end. And you have, I think that's Darius Slay out here on this other tight end. So this is what's supposed to happen. Now, when they start to motion, you'll see the back motions out, and Reed Blankenship is pointing for Nakobe Dean. He's telling him, you take that guy. But Jamar Chase, at the same time, Reed Blankenship's taking a step here to make sure this is covered, make sure Nakobe Dean's coming. And now Jamar Chase is moving the other direction. So we're already out of position. And I think what's meant to happen here is routes are meant to pass off. And so when you get Chauncey Gardner-Johnson covering a tight end on a drag route, Reed Blankenship's trying to get CJ to pass this off and to get out to Jamar Chase, but it doesn't happen. They kind of both take the crosser. They essentially triple team him because you got your rat defender. And now that leaves Nolan Smith one-on-one with a guy that was never meant to be his responsibility. And pass rush doesn't win. Joe Burrow extends the play. Nolan Smith's not going to cover that guy forever. So the Eagles didn't come out and big brain this and say, hey, let's just throw Nolan Smith out there and Jamar Chase. I think we can take him. This was a really good schemed up play by the Bengals. A lot of motion, a lot of shifting, and it confused some things. And I'm pretty sure what was meant to happen there was for the Eagles to pass that off in man coverage. And Nolan Smith was just meant to be there as a bonus dropper. So I wanted to break that play down, let everybody know what I saw of that one that I thought happened. Now let's get into another play let's talk about how you respond to empty, because that play, it started out in empty and then they motioned into the backfield. There was a few times this game that the Bengals came out in 12 personnel, which the Eagles respond to with 5 defensive linemen, and then they spread out into empty. So this is one of the first times we see this in the game. The Bengals are in 12 personnel, but empty. And so this is Nakobe Dean at the boundary lined up over a running back. What does that tell you? It tells you it's man coverage, right? If we got a linebacker out there, it's man coverage. If we've got a cornerback out there, it's probably zone coverage. And so man coverage in space, not going to be Nakobe Dean's specialty, right? They're just going to run a little out route. I would run something else that has a chance to actually go like break this for a touchdown if it's actually man coverage. But this ball's just out at the sideline. No chance for yards after catch. Tackled out of bounds. Okay, let's go back to empty now. This time the Bengals go empty out of 12 personnel once again. This time the running back is down here at the bottom of the screen. And this is Darius Slay. So Darius Slay is over the running back at the boundary. You've also got Nakobe Dean over Jamar Chase in the slot. Both of these things indicate zone coverage, right? And so Joe Burrow thinks pre-snap, okay, this time they're going to give us zone. Let's run something that'll beat zone, except it's not. Nakobe Dean is actually one-on-one with Jamar Chase in cover one with no safety help. The safety is on the opposite hash. And so you got Jamar Chase one-on-one with Nakobe Dean, and his safety help is outside the other hash. But this confuses Joe Burrow, and you do get this creeper pressure. You're going to get Zach Bond looping around over the other side, and you get a free runner, and the ball's got to come out fast, and all of a sudden, oh my gosh, it's not actually zone coverage, it's man coverage. It confuses Burrow. This is a play, it's sort of like cover 2 invert that we talked about a few weeks ago from Jim Schwartz in the Bengals game. It's a coverage that's so bad it sometimes works because you just don't expect it to be that, but you don't expect there to be a hole that huge in the middle of the field. This play confuses Burrow because he's thinking there's no way the Eagles are going to leave Nakobe Dean on my best receiver with no safety help. This must be zone. And when it isn't, he doesn't know where to go with the football. I can just imagine a defensive coach in the meeting room putting this one on the chalkboard during the week and Vic Fangio looking at him and saying, you know, that's so stupid. It might actually work. And it worked here. So Next time you see a Nakobe Dean get dusted by CeeDee Lamb against the Cowboys or something like that, just remember, it works sometimes. And when it works, nobody really notices. When it doesn't work, you get roasted online for like 3 weeks about it. So not all things are always as they seem, but they were able to confuse Burrow on that play. Okay, now let's get into our final point. And we're going to got a comment here from Brett Eclipse. Nakobe Dean, cover linebacker legend. Yeah, I can see him whooping it up with his buddies in the locker room. That I could see him giving a hard time to Quinyon Mitchell and to Cooper DeJean, who gave up receptions to Jamar Chase in this game, being like, I don't really see what the big deal was. I had him one-on-one with no safety help. So, yeah, another comment coming in from YouTube that says, if it works, it's not stupid. That's exactly it. Like, if it works, it's a genius. And if it doesn't work, actually, if it works, nobody notices. If it doesn't work, you get roasted on Twitter for weeks. Let's go to one more comment, and then we'll get into our player spotlight. T. Grant on YouTube says that the Eagles have 2 backup linebackers they like in Oren Burks, who is long with experience, and Jeremiah Trotter Jr., who is young and need work. And then you've got Ben Van Sumeren as the 5th linebacker / fullback. We're stacked at linebacker depth, or at least it feels that way. It does feel that way. Hopefully the Eagles continue to have good linebacker play, and hopefully they stay healthy. I know that's been an issue with Nakobe Dean in his career. Seems healthy, seems to be playing at a really high level. Okay, so let's get into our player spotlight, the final point for this episode. We're going to talk about Cooper DeJean. So each week we put out in our Discord, on our Patreon community, a player spotlight poll, and we let you guys choose a player that you want us to do a segment on. And this week it was Cooper DeJean. And so we'll talk about some good, some bad from Cooper DeJean and just overall where he's at as a player. But the most impressive play he had in the game to me, people are going to talk about the 4th and 1 play, and we'll get there. But this is the most impressive play. The Eagles are going to be playing quarters here. And so that means Darius Slay has number 1 receiver if he goes vertical. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson's got number 2. We're tricksing with the safety, which means he's got number 3. And so Cooper DeJean is essentially supposed to contact the number 2 receiver and then fall off underneath and look for work if there's anybody coming his way. Well, you're going to get a dig route from the outside receiver, and there's nothing underneath for Cooper DeJean. He gets hands on. There's nothing here. And so I love that he peeks over his shoulder. He sees this route starting to break in, and he's going to get his eyes back on the quarterback, and he's going to go find the ball. And he gets his hands on it, and he almost intercepts it. This would have been a big play if he doesn't do this, because Darius Slay slips. He falls down out of the break. So you're throwing into a wide open void here. But Cooper DeJean almost comes up with this interception. It's also a really good play by Zach Bond, who is not who we're talking about here. But Zach Bond does a good job of sinking into this throwing window too. It's got to come a little higher than Burrow would maybe want. And Cooper DeJean almost brings this one in. Heck, Darius Slay almost brings this one in. And so that was a really impressive play from Cooper DeJean. I'll just roll it one more time without stopping it here. Most impressive play. And he's got the hand. He's got good ball skills. I feel more confident about him bringing in these interceptions than Quinyon Mitchell. We're going to see that from Cooper DeJean if he continues to play like that. Now let's go to a bad play. This is the 3rd and 22, and Cooper DeJean makes a big mistake on this play. And he's good in his coverage technique until it goes into scramble drill. And it's unfortunate. Josh Sweat should have got Joe Burrow down. A lot of guys should have got him down before Cooper DeJean makes his mistake. But at the point Burrow is scrambling out, Cooper DeJean starts to come up, which is fine because the receiver behind him is covered by Slay. There is a receiver here. However, you can't let that receiver past you. Like, you need to take the receiver, not Burrow. The receiver running downfield might pick up a first down. We're not concerned about Burrow running 22 yards for a first down, but he doesn't. He gets past. You've also got a guy just closing on Burrow. Like, just take the receiver. But he comes up. Joe Burrow throws it over his head, and you give up a 3rd and 22. And at the time, this was a huge play. Like, this was a momentum swinging play. You thought that. I mean, I looked at the guy I was watching the game with when it happened. I just said, hey, it might just not be the Eagles' day. That's a gut-wrenching play. And it's easily avoidable, and I fully expect him not to make that mistake again. But that was a big mistake. This next play we're going to show, he tracks Jamar Chase across the formation in motion, and the Eagles are going to run a cover one blitz. Now, I'm not a big fan of cover one blitzing. The Eagles did it a decent amount in this game. I just think if you're going to rush 5, I'm not opposed to it, but let's try to do something sneaky, not just straight rush 5 guys, 5 one-on-ones. I'd rather have 3 one-on-ones, a double team, and an extra guy in coverage most of the time, unless we're trying to do something tricky. But they do a cover one, which means that Jamar Chase is one-on-one with Cooper DeJean, and Cooper DeJean is starting from outside leverage when you don't want to give up an inside route, right? So that's already, he's got to be on this point guy. So we're at a disadvantage from leverage, and it's a free release. And Jamar Chase is just going to jab out and break over the middle. Now, this is a tough coverage assignment for Cooper DeJean. And he gets beat here. I would like to see a different play call there, but you'd like to see DeJean be able to stick a little bit closer there as well. But that is a very tough assignment. On the very next play, the Bengals are going to go after him again. And this time he's tracking motion across the formation. And notice he's not in the slot this time. As he's coming across, Quinyon Mitchell pushes him outside. And so he's the outside cornerback now. This is a different technique. He's playing off coverage, and they're going to run an out route. And Cooper DeJean makes a really good tackle in space. No yards after the catch, brings him down. Cooper DeJean's tackling was really good. Like, you missed that tackle, it's a touchdown. We don't need to mention slot cornerbacks that might have missed that tackle. But he gets him on the ground. And then on the 4th and 1, after the 3rd and 1 stop we looked at earlier, you get Cooper DeJean tracking Jamar Chase in motion. He fakes back. DeJean is right with him, avoids the traffic out into the flat, and makes the tackle for a 2 or 3 yard loss. The back view on this play is even more impressive. You can just see the agility that he has here and the speed to get out with Jamar Chase. Drops him in the open field. So Cooper DeJean, very worthy of our player spotlight profile this week. I thought he had a really good game. A few missed things, and you're going to get that from a rookie. But in the last 3 weeks since he became the starter out of the bye week, he has 7 stops, which again is a tackle that generates negative EPA. And he has been charged with 61 yards receiving allowed on 14 targets. So he's been targeted 14 times, has only given up 61 yards receiving per PFF's charting. And so that's pretty impressive from a rookie getting his first action at a position, slot cornerback, that a lot of people said that he wouldn't be a good fit for. Now, I kind of wanted him in the slot, and I acknowledge some of the deficiencies and like his hip tightness and agility and things, but I thought he would be so good, physically in the slot and the run game and as a blitzer and things like that. And so I'm glad the Eagles have found a role for him there. He is playing really well. GG on YouTube says that Cooper DeJean revived this defense. Drew says that Slay slipped on that play, that Cooper DeJean is aged beyond his years. We'll say he's aged beyond his years mentally in the game, maybe not, falling off a cliff, but I know that's what you meant. Brett Eclipse says, assuming Fangio stays for the foreseeable future, do you think he would prefer to see Cooper stay at nickel when Slay is gone? That's a really good question. I'd have to think about that. I think with what you've seen from him in the slot so far, I think you would want to keep him there. And, maybe Isaiah Rodgers becomes a long-term piece, or maybe Keely Ringo becomes that. Cause I know that Fangio likes to play a lot of like cover 6 defense where he'll leave, a guy like Keely Ringo on an island in press coverage or things like that. So, there's some different ways you could see that play out. You never know, what the team's going to look like next year, who you get in free agency, who you get in the draft. So that's hard to say, but right now I would definitely want to see Cooper DeJean stay in the slot. Last comment here before we get out of here from Crabby Old Man on YouTube says, I heard someone say tackling might be improving because guys have been put in better positions to start with and are finding their angles. Thoughts? I totally agree. This is something that Johnny brought up on I believe it was on one of the post-game shows, or it might have actually been on one of our shows, but about the Eagles missed tackling when they were playing so far off in coverage. And it's really hard to tackle in the open field, and guys don't just forget how to tackle one week and remember how to tackle the next. Like, obviously you can have a bad week, but I think there is a correlation between the Eagles playing tighter to receivers and routes on the line of scrimmage and decreased missed tackles. And I think it goes hand in hand. It's a lot easier to tackle a guy that you're two yards from when he catches the ball than a guy that you're 8 yards from when he catches the ball. So I'll give credit to Johnny for that one. That was a big thing he was pointing out, and it's certainly been much improved. So, all right, that is going to do it for this episode. Again, apologies. Johnny was unable to be here for this one. He's traveling back to England, and so we'll get him back on next week. Hopefully we have equally fun film over the Jaguars to break down. But if you guys are here watching live, make sure you go check out the podcast feed, Eagles Pinpool Network on Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Go check that out, download, listen there, leave us ratings and reviews to help us get the podcast out there to more people, because we would really appreciate more listeners. Love that you guys join in live with us every Wednesday. Stay tuned to the feed. We're going to have a lot more stuff coming your way. The Armchair Scouts will be back tomorrow previewing this weekend's college football action, giving you some Eagles targets to watch. We'll have Eye on the Enemy later this week. The Kelly Green Hour will be doing their preview show. And then, of course, we'll have live halftime and post-game shows, which I'll be back for this week. So you guys keep it tuned right here for all of our great content. We'll catch you guys next time.